All right, just getting some things set up here for the class. It is all right. I think we're getting about ready to roll. If you're watching live on YouTube, look in the chat. I just dropped a couple links in the chat on YouTube. One is a link, a link to our live Zoom call. So there's some folks here on live with us, and there's also a passcode to get in the Zoom room. So if you're watching, it's March 1st. And if you're watching live starting at 7 o'clock, you can join us on Zoom. After the class topic is over, I'll cut the live feed, and then I hang out on the Zoom room till probably, 8:15. And we get into it. We talk about the concept and how we can apply it to our lives. You also see a link in the chat for the class notes. And so those notes for class tonight, you can print them out, and that's what we're going to go over. All right. Welcome everybody to another class of Increase. It's March 1st, 2023, and I'm just excited to be with you. Tonight we're getting into a topic that I really have pressed into a lot, and it's one of those that the further you press in, the deeper it seems to go, and the more you learn how to apply it to just about all areas of your life, and that is value. And so what I want you to understand when we're talking about value is a fundamental principle of life. And it is essential to understand the economy. It's essential to understand how to be successful. And it's essential to understand leadership. Let me repeat that one more time. I just was getting some things set up on the live stream. So value is a fundamental principle of life, and it's essential to understand the economy. It's essential to understand success, and it's essential to understand leadership, and it is a deep well. So tonight we're going to talk about value in three ways. Okay, you can see them on me behind me on the board. We're going to talk about value in a very practical sense, because value is very tangible. It's very practical. It's very real world here and now. See it, smell it, taste it. But value has some deep spiritual connotations. And if you've watched any of our classes, you know that this Increase class is about applying spiritual principles to get natural results. And so value is a spiritual principle. And when you begin to understand that these concepts are spiritual, then you understand that there's a deeper root. There's a foundational energy and power to these concepts that you can begin to apply in many different areas, and you begin to see some pretty dramatic results. And then we're going to be applicable with this concept of value. I think if you study success principles for very long, you'll realize you've heard a lot of them. They really aren't that new. The problem that most people have with their results is they don't know why they get the results they do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They do something that works really well for a while, and then they stop. and then the results change, and they haven't stopped to think, why did my results change? And oftentimes the results change when you change your behavior. And so really taking time to understand the spiritual principles behind the things that you do, behind your behaviors, your thoughts, your actions, then you'll start to have control over your results, because you'll understand the input. It's like an equation. You have the input and then you have an output, and the output is super recognizable. Okay. The input, not so much. But when you understand the spiritual principles of increase, then you really, what you understand is the inputs. You know how to direct the inputs and manipulate the inputs to change the result. Most of the time we're observing results. We want certain results, or we complain about results that we don't like. And that's about as far as we get, and we haven't changed the input or how we use the spiritual principles. And value is one of those. And it's maybe one of the most simple but profound of the spiritual principles when it comes to input. And you can find many ways in your life, all areas of your life. When you look for the value in all areas of your life, you'll see those spiritual inputs all over the place. So let's just jump right in on the practical side of value, right? So there's many types of value. Okay. The definition of value, as you see written on the board behind me, is the importance, the worth, or the usefulness of something. The importance or the worth of the usefulness of something. And so we say something like, this Bible is valuable to me. This water bottle is valuable to me. But we measure value in many different ways. And so the most common way we measure value is with money, right? Things cost certain amounts. There are prices to things that we want to buy, that we want to spend our money on to get a value back, right? We value things in the amount of time it takes or amount of time it saves, okay? We also value something by the amount of sweat, labor, or energy that it takes to achieve or obtain. We also value something based on the influence that we get from it. Influence over others, the influence in a marketplace or in a community. And we value things, also material goods have a value. So the most basic form of human interaction oftentimes is trade. It is exchanging something I have that you need for something that you need that I have. And before there's money, we have the barter system. And ultimately, the barter system is fundamentally just an exchange of value. I'm in need of something. And so I'm exchanging something that you need for what you have that I find valuable. Money is just a currency that makes trade possible. It makes the exchange of value easier. It's just a concept, really, if you want to boil it down to. And so we've decided to put dollar bills, which those are going away, also dollar signs on a ledger, on a bank account, on your computer, in the form of value. So I no longer have to find something that's valuable to you to get this thing that you have that's value to me. Instead, we can exchange things. We can exchange these dollars or this currency that then we each get to convert individually into what we find valuable, right? So really, money is kind of the most common used form of value, but really money is just exchanging. It's a form of exchange of value. Money has value because of what it can purchase for me, okay? What you also got to understand about value is unique to the individual. Value is not the same for everybody. Now, this water bottle might sell at the same price to everybody, but I'm going to get a different amount of value out of this water bottle because I use it every day than the person who buys it and puts it in the pantry or on their shelves and they never take it down, right? So value is unique to the individual. What might be valuable to you may not be valuable to someone else, right? And that's a really important concept to understand. Oftentimes we think, well, that's not worth it. Well, that's not worth it. It may not be worth it to you, but be careful before you paint broad strokes over all of life on what may or may not be worth it to you, because someone else is going to derive different value. So my daughter's a painter. Paintbrushes and paints are valuable to her. I'm not a painter. So I wouldn't I don't derive value from paintbrushes and paint, right? So what is important to you? Importance, you put value on that thing, okay? So price, you have to understand, very practically speaking, price is a function of value, not cost, right? What I'm willing to pay for something has to do with the amount of value I'm going to get out of it. Do you understand? And the best way you understand this is through luxury items, let's say. Okay, so there are vehicles that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But I would not pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a sports car because I would not derive hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value from a sports car. That sports car is going to be less valuable than my Yukon, because in the stage of life I'm in with the family that I have, I get tremendous amounts of value from my Yukon when my whole family can pack up in it and we can go somewhere. But my whole family cannot get in the sports car. So that sports car might be worth $2,000 to me, though it might retail at $350,000. And the person that might have $200 million, they can pay $350,000 for a sports car, but to them, they actually might derive $750,000 worth of value. Right? So value is unique to the individual who's actually going to use it. And price is a function of value. So the price of something is defined by what someone's willing to pay. You often hear someone say, well, what's that worth? Well, tell you what it's worth, whatever someone's willing to pay for it. And I'm willing to pay something different than probably you are, depending on the thing that's made available, right? So to understand business, right, and really to understand increase in your life, even if you're not a business owner, you have to understand that business and increase is a result of the exchange of value, right? So business exists when I can exchange value with someone else. I can add value to someone's life. In turn, they give me the money that I value. Same as increase in a general sense, right? It is an exchange of value. You will increase in life as you are able to exchange value with someone else, whether you're exchanging value with the corporation you work for, you're exchanging value with a customer, or even you're someone begging on the side of the street who's asking for money. Is someone exchanging value? And what's the value they're exchanging? Well, the person on the side of the street needs money, and the value that they're giving to the person giving the money really is that that person feels good about themselves that they gave the money. And sometimes giving someone money has value because it's confidence booster. You feel better about yourself. But anyway, where you see increase, there's going to be an exchange of value. So I want you to start training your mind to see when you want more, you've got to begin to see where's the exchange of value here, right? I want more. Where's the exchange need to happen? What can I exchange in order to get back? We don't have to exchange money, though it often makes exchanges very easy because it's a store of value. It's not necessarily valuable, but it's a store of value. All right. So if you are in business or you're trying to serve a customer, you understand that a customer is willing to pay for something up to the point that they derive value, right? So you have to set your price lower than the value that your customer is going to get from your price, right? So if you want to set the price of your service at $10,000, then you're going to need to make sure that your customer is able to get more than $10,000 worth of value from the service that you're giving. Okay, that's really some basic math, but you have to start thinking whether you're an employee or you're in business, where is the exchange of value? So let's talk about as an employee, you are paid not what your worth is. Let me say that again. You have to understand this. You're not paid what your worth is. Many people get messed up at work because they derive their self-worth from the job and the amount of money they make. That is a very dangerous pit that you can fall in. You are not paid based on your worth. You are paid based on the value you are able to contribute. Most people are in jobs that limit the amount of value that they can contribute. But it does not mean that their personal worth is low. It just may mean they're in a place where they're only able to give a little bit of value compared to what's possible for them. Okay, we're going to get into that really deep in a little bit and applicable. So stick with me on that. But whether you're an employee or someone in business, or you're trying to get a favor for a favor from someone, the exchange happens when there's value that's exchanged, and the value people will pay in value, in money, up to the point that they get value back. Just like I said, I would not pay $350,000 to a sports car because I could not personally derive the value from it. Okay. The computer that I paid $1,800 for seemed expensive at the time, but I have derived probably 100-fold value from this one piece of equipment. Okay. So exchange of value. So very practical. I think we all understand that, right? So now let's dig into the spiritual principles, the inputs into value. So then we can move into applicable. How applicable? How can we actually put these into action? So value is a spiritual concept, right? It is an input, and we really recognize the output of value. But we need to start recognizing the input that creates the value, because until you can recognize the spiritual inputs that create that value on the back end through money or recognition or fame, then it will always be a mystery, and it will always be hit or miss. So we've got to key in on what's the input. There's a law in the success world, and it's called the law of compensation. The law of compensation. Law of compensation states that you will always be compensated for your efforts and your contributions, whatever it is, however much or however little. The law clearly states the amount of money that you will earn will always be an exact ratio to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there will be in replacing you. Okay. So what this law of compensation says is that you will receive value from the world based on the amount of value that you put out. Okay. The amount of money that you're going to get back will be commensurate or equal to the amount of value that you put there. Now, that's going to be hard to grasp at first, because oftentimes, I said, we find ourselves in opportunities that restrict the amount of value that we personally are able to put out there. But the key is to understand that if I or you, if we put value out there, eventually we will be compensated. By law, we will be compensated for the value that we put out there, right? So this is a spiritual input, which normally means we put this into the system and it doesn't necessarily spit out exactly the place that we put it in. Okay. You may add value to your, to a loved one's life, but may get the value back from another friend. You may add value to your boss, but you may get it back through some other money that comes to in your life. But essentially, the law of compensation states, by law, the amount of money you make, the amount of value you get back, is an exact ratio to what you put out there. Okay. All right. If you've read your Bible, you've heard something very similar. And it's kind of a dovetail of a law that speaks of value, and that's the law of sowing and reaping, right? And so we see that in the Bible in two critical places. It's all throughout Scripture, where the Bible tells us about the importance of giving and giving our tithes and giving offerings. But there's two specific Bible verses that we have to know. And if you haven't studied your Bible, write these down. Galatians 6 verse 7 says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap." See, Paul writes in the Bible, you could take it to the bank. Whatever you sow, whatever you put out there is what you're going to get back. Okay? He writes in another book, 2 Corinthians, same author, explaining the same concept. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, you got to understand, in chapter 8 and 9, Paul's writing about money. There's no way around it. He's writing about money. And he's telling this church about how to make sure that they're able to get the money they need. And he's saying, in order for you to derive more money and more value, you've got to be generous with what you do have. This is a law of sowing and reaping. So 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 through 8 says, "But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly." So he's equating money with a farmer putting seed in the ground. Okay. "And he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. every man according as he purpose in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of a necessity. For God loves a cheerful giver, and God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. Paul's saying, if you have got to give in order to get. You've got to sow in order to reap. Now, he's specifically talking about money and being generous with your money. And if you're generous with your money, you will find that money comes back to you in many different sources, okay? But the same concept is throughout all of the creation. You're generous with your time, others will be generous with their time. If you're generous with your labor, others will be generous with their labor. If you're generous with your influence, others will be generous with their influence. Whatever you sow, you will reap. Whatever value you put out in the world, law of compensation, law of sowing and reaping says you're going to get that back in an exact ratio. Okay. So you've heard me say before that you don't get what you want, you get what you are. Now, that's a quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. We've spent many classes talking about the importance of becoming more on the inside so that we could experience more on the outside, right? So we become more so we can have more. So very similar to that, you don't get what you want, you get what you give. Okay, you have to become more to get more, but you've got to learn that if you want to get more, you've got to give more. So that's a simplified way of summing up the law of sowing and reaping and the law of compensation. You get what you give. So if you want to increase and you want more value, then you're going to have to become more valuable. You're going to have to become more valuable on the inside in your character. And you're going to have to become more valuable to the world in your service, in your love for others, in the way that you give of what you have. Through, you can give in money, you can give in time, you can give in your sweat, you can give in your energy. A lot of people really focus when they read these Bible verses, because Paul was talking about money, they get really focused on giving money to get money. And trust me, you can give money to give money. If you are generous, generosity will come back to you. That is a law. But a lot of people miss the importance of giving energy, of giving sweat, of adding more value where they work, where they go to church, in the family that they live, in the community that they volunteer, continuing to add more value so that they can get more value back. Any time that your input into the system is what you're giving out, whether it's your money, whether it's your energy, whether it's your effort, and then what you get back is the increase of value. Okay, so now hopefully you're starting to see what your inputs are. These spiritual principles, these are all my inputs. Many people think that their input is limited to what their job description is, and it's limited to the pay that they've agreed on with their employer. No, your input is limited to how much you're willing to put out there. Trust me, the law of compensation states that you're going to get back an exact ratio that which you give out. So though you might be limited to a $15 an hour job, if you start to put $20 an hour of value out into the world, eventually that money's coming back to you. Right? You'll either get the raise, you'll get the promotion, or a whole new opportunity is coming back to you. I can guarantee you that I've experienced this so many times in my life. I think I've told you before in other classes, my job hunting strategy has been the phone rings. The phone always rings. See, when you become ready for the next step, for the next opportunity on the inside, the opportunity comes. When you're giving more value than your current opportunity, then an opportunity will present itself that allows you to give more value. Trust me, you are not limited by your job. You might feel limited, but you're only limited by what you're willing to give out there. Okay. See, many people aren't receiving the more because they're focusing on the wrong side of the equation. They're focusing on the output. They're focusing on the $15 an hour that they've agreed upon with their boss. They're focusing on the results they're currently getting. Or maybe they're even focusing on their dream, but they're not getting it. See, your focus and attention has got to shift from the output to the input. You don't really have real control over the output. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians, he says, I plant, Apollos waters, but it's the Lord who brings the increase. See, your increase is ultimately in God's hands. So you're going to have to be patient and wait for his mercy to give you that value in exchange. So you really can't control when that's going to come to you. But what's the one thing you can control? The one thing you can control is the amount of value that you put out into the world, whether that's through your giving or that's through your sweat, your labor, your effort, right? So we've got to start taking our focus off of our current results and put it on our input. We got to take our focus off of our goals and the achieving of our goals. And we've got to look at what the input is going to require to get those. And once you've established what you want, then you go to work on the input, and all your focus is on input, and you are just pushing out as much value as possible. The quickest way to achieve any goal is to put in massive action and push massive amounts of value everywhere you go. Serve anyone you can get in contact with, because it's through that input that the law of compensation guarantees that I'm going to eventually receive value in exchange for what I put in. I'm going to reap what I've sowed. All right, so let's dig into the applicable side of this. We've kind of started to get into it, but let's dig a little deeper, right? So if you want more, you got to give more, right? Another way to say it is I've got to add more value. Another way of saying it is I've got to exchange more value, okay? I can't control my harvest, but I can control what I sow. All right, so let's look at a couple of examples. So let's say you're someone who wants a raise, right? You make $20 an hour, but you're really hoping to get up to 25. Okay. Or you make 100 grand and you'd really like to get a raise to $250,000. Okay. So based on this law of compensation and the law of sowing and reaping, what do you need to do to get the raise? Okay. You've got to add more value at work than what you're getting paid for. See, right now you're getting paid for the value that you're giving, or you're getting paid for the value that they're deriving. You've got to start pushing more value than what you're getting paid for. Okay. You start adding more value, and just like I said, that raise, that promotion, or a whole new job opportunity by a law of compensation will come to you. Now that's really hard when you don't like your job, and that's really hard when you feel underappreciated. And that's really hard when you see no path ahead. It's really hard when you're in a role where your boss isn't quitting anytime soon. When you're mid-level manager and the upper level management is not moving, and you're in a company that feels like it's contracting and not expanding. Okay. But what you got to understand is God will not be mocked. Whatever you sow, that's what you're going to reap. Okay. Like every good and perfect gift comes from above, and you've got to know that. And you got to start working as if unto the Lord. So you may be working for a boss you hate, for a job that pays you too little. But if you start adding more value than what you're getting paid for, eventually your whole circumstance will change. Try it out. I guarantee it won't take long. It may not happen the first day, it may not happen the first week, but you won't do that long before people start noticing and the opportunity presents itself. Okay, in a very similar way, let's say you just want income in general, like you have a small business, or you're thinking about starting a business, right? You got to add more value. So what's the way to think about it? There's really two ways to think about adding more value in business. You can either serve more people, or can serve your people more. So Naveen Jain is a billionaire entrepreneur, problem solver, brilliant thinker. And he said, if you want to be a billionaire, then what you need to do is you need to help 1 billion people. Because really value is exchange where there's a problem to be solved. Okay. The opportunity to exchange value comes when someone has a problem or a need for something and you've got a solution. So if you want to increase, you got to start looking for problems. You got to start looking for people that need help. You know, I know that when you're in need, you're just like, get me away from needy people. Let me get around people who have some money to give me. But what you got to start looking for is the people in need, even when you're in need, because someone else has your money. the opportunities are going to be found in other problems. So you've either got to serve more people, or you've got to serve your people more. You serve more people, so there's more value you're putting out there, or you serve your people more, meaning you're adding more value to them than what they're currently getting. By law of compensation, what's going to happen? You're going to increase. More value is going to come to you. Okay. So I've got a good friend of mine, was taught something early on in his career by a mentor. And my friend owns a landscaping company, successful guy, is a partner with us and some of our real estate development stuff. Just a great partner in what we're doing, right? And so he's a vendor to us and a successful guy. And early in his career, he had a mentor tell him, he said, when you go on a job site, or you go to a business, or you go to someone's house, look around for all the money laying around and make sure you pick it up. See, the money laying around was all the things that needed to be done, all the unmet needs, the mess, the trash, things that need to be picked up. And so this person has gotten incredibly good at finding the needs laying around. And he has become invaluable to me. He has made himself so valuable to me because he finds my problems. And guess what we're willing to do? We're willing to exchange value for that. He solves a problem for me, and we are happy to pay for him to solve that problem, because it's a problem that I can't solve without someone like that's help. He's got equipment, he's got manpower. So oftentimes I can just ask him to take care of things that other people would snub their nose at, because to him it's money laying around and he's picking up that money. So you might think about it. When you go to work tomorrow, look for the money laying around. Look for the problems. Look for the things that aren't going well where you work or the business that you run. Start to solve them. Where you find the problems, you find the opportunities to add value. You find the places where you're going to begin to increase. Now, let me make this really practical for you. Your greatest potential for increase, your greatest potential to receive value, solving other problems, will occur when you use your gift to add value to someone else's life. There's lots of things you're undoubtedly physically capable of doing, okay? But your greatest potential will be using your gift, because as we've stated in other classes, your gift is the thing you do best with the least amount of effort. Your gift is your superpower, and your gift is probably something you do better than anyone else on the planet. So it would be a waste of your effort to go try to create an income or bring more value to you doing things other than your gift. Okay. If your gift is communication, then it would be a real waste of your energy for you to go add value, just digging a ditch, doing heavy manual labor or moving heavy things. Now, there's nothing wrong with moving heavy things, doing manual labor. I've done plenty of it. And there are certain people who have gifts at that, right? But your greatest potential to increase will be when you use your gift. Okay. So what you're looking for is environments where you can use your gift. Now, oftentimes we take the journey we've been on and we learn about an industry, and then we're able to expand in our gift because of our knowledge there. But ultimately, it's getting to a place where your gift makes room for you. So my gift is that I see the way. So I have a leadership gift. Now, I started my career as a grunt on a job site, just mixing concrete and shoveling sand. And I really wasn't using my gift, but I didn't know anything about gift. But what I ended up doing was through hard work and just sheer learning, I started learning more. And because I learned so much and I got good at working with my team, then I worked myself into positions of leadership and then creating my own businesses. And so I used what I learned through that industry to be able to lead people through it, to really use my real gift. So when I was a great framer. I could really hammer nails. I still can do it. I'm really fast at building things out of wood, but I'm really limited to the amount of value that I can make, because a framer really is only going to make $20, $25, $30 an hour, right? I make a lot more money than that leading those people, using the leadership using my gift. It's not just the leadership, it's using my gift, leading people that do that skill than I ever did using that skill, but it's in my gift. So you got to start looking for environments where you can use your gift. Now, I want to present a concept that we talked about last week, and I want to put it in this context. And last week I was sharing, it was the third room of success, and it was about creating room for your team. And I presented a criteria for bringing team members onto your team and how to vet out whether these people were going to be a good fit for you. Now, it's also a great way for you to see, for you to vet out environments that are going to be a great place for you to thrive, for you to increase and to derive value from it. Okay. So I don't know if you remember, we'll draw it out again. But last week we drew a pyramid. And so we had this pyramid that is like it's a hierarchy of criteria that you're looking for when you're looking for a fruitful environment for your gift, the place you're going to be able to derive value the quickest. And the first thing that you're looking for is the culture. Now, when you're hiring someone, you're looking for their character. When you're being hired, you're looking for the culture. Okay. The second thing that you're looking for to see if this environment's going to suit you and you're going to be prosperous there is you're looking to see, can I use my gift here? Do they need my gift? Remember, your gift makes room for you. So there's got to be a need for your gift, because if there's not a need for your gift, then they're only going to be asking you to do a limited amount of what you're capable of. Therefore, you're only going to get a limited amount of value for what you're capable of getting out of life. The third thing is you're looking for a position that you have experience in. Okay. So you have experience in a certain position. So ultimately you're looking for somewhere that's got a great culture that you have similar value systems. You're looking for a place you can use your gift in a position that maybe you have experience in. And then finally, hopefully that place is in an industry that you have experience in. But this is a hierarchy. You don't have to get all four to be successful. Sometimes you only need the first and the second. But if you can add the first, the second, and the third, you can be super successful. And then you add the fourth and it's game on. But here's why I say that. If you're early in your career, a lot of people are starting in the reverse order. They're looking for the industry they are interested in. But they're interested in industry. They have no experience. They're interested in an industry and they don't know how to use their gift. And so they're taking jobs because they say, I'm interested in movie production, right? Or I'm interested in IT, or I'm interested in construction, but their gift is music, right? So just because you're interested in industry doesn't mean that you can be prosperous. So they're looking for industry, and then they're looking for a certain job title they think they qualified for. And then they rarely get to whether it's going to allow them to really use their gift. And most of the time they pick cultures they're not even a good fit with. So you see all over social media, people are complaining about companies that they don't enjoy working for. They're toxic environments. And maybe they are toxic, or maybe they're just the wrong fit for you, because you as an employee didn't interview the company. You see, the company's interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. Don't take a job in a culture that doesn't share your value system. Don't take a job that doesn't give you room to offer your gift, right? You've got to start here and work your way up. Why? Because this is the type of environment that allows you to add value, which by what does the law of compensation say? If I've got an environment that allows me to add a lot of value, that's an environment that I'm going to get a lot of value from. So important that we begin to look for value, because if you're watching this class, you want more in your life. If you're watching this class, you probably want more money. You probably want more influence. You probably have big dreams and goals. And I pray that you do. And so what you're looking to do is you're looking to get value out of the world, but you've got to begin to see value. You got to begin to see it where it is. You got to begin to recognize where you can add it. And you got to focus your effort on the places that you can put value out, and continue to gravitate into environments that allow you to do more and more and more. So download the notes. They're in the chats. It's going to be in this YouTube description. Really dig into this. This is a simple concept that you can apply in every area of your life. And if you do, by law, you're going to see an increase. So catch us next week for another